Welcome back to Film Crusade. All right. So it's been a minute.
Yeah, I think it's been like what, 2 weeks? I think I looked at it yesterday.
I think so. It's
Oh
been a
wait,
while.
yeah. But we're back to talk about Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which I like to point out just for the record that I like the fact that they did not call it Black Panther 2. Because I
Yeah.
like it maybe sometimes. Like if they say like part two, it's pretty cool with like the little Roman numerals.
The Godfather Part 2.
Like that's fine. But when they are like, oh, the number two, like after the title, I'm like, okay. Like I think it was cool. Okay, Sam Raimi's okay. I think just because I just grew up on that, but just
Yeah.
as I got older, like Iron Man
If
2.
you're gonna have everything be blank, blank 2, blank 3.
Just some, it's just some, pizzazz. Like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, as much as I think that movie's questionable, but yeah,
It is one of the best MCU movies in my opinion, but that's me. Um,
But I would say that Black Panther Wakanda Forever is possibly the best of Phase 4. I would mainly say just strictly on an emotional level, but I think on an entertainment level, I want to say maybe it's Multiverse of Madness for me, but I don't know just because
yeah.
I will look back at Multiverse of Madness and I'm like, it's really, I'm like, oh yeah, I have a lot of fun with this movie and it's
It's
really,
a Sam Raimi movie
yeah.
where
But I think this is like an actual like movie, like like Ryan Coogler set out to make an actual movie because I think there was like maybe a couple, like a handful of action sequences.
well, I feel like Raimi's Multiverse of Madness, and this can be a slight review of that as well, which is like probably my overall favorite MCU movie now,
Damn.
is because it's a Raimi movie and it feels almost entirely like a Raimi movie, where there's a solid half here with Wakanda Forever that feels like Coogler trying to do something, and it's like maybe more like 2/3. But there is a chunk that is MCU inserting itself in there and being like, "Hey, just so you know, we're here." Um,
Yeah, I mean, with some of the jokes, I would say
yeah,
just
the
yeah.
jokes,
I guess we just start up with just the stuff that was I for us.
yeah, the
That was I, and then we'll end strong.
yeah,
But yeah, I think some of the jokes, and at least with this one, I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of. There's a couple in here that were just kind of some of them were good, some of them were kind of just really I felt they were really shoehorned in, and especially because
yeah.
it's a movie
I
of
think
grief,
what,
you
yeah,
know. So, yeah,
I think Umbaku's comic relief worked. I think Riri Thorne, right? Is her last name?
I believe so.
Riri Williams.
Williams, nope, that was wrong. I knew it was a Williams in there.
Riri Williams. All her one-liners kind of just bugged me. Like I really thought, oh, this could be a cool character, but it's like one-liner machine, and that really clashes with this kind of sad and meta tone and ambitious tone they're going with. Is like, oh yeah, let's just crack jokes all the time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple. I mean, I felt like it was the same with, and I know you haven't seen it, but with No Way Home, there
Yeah,
was there's particularly a scene with a certain character that's in like the halfway point in the movie, and then directly after there was like a weird introduction, or at least an introduction I feel like should have been placed somewhere else. It's just, but there were like jokes in between. It's kind of like there's not enough breathing room, at least for No Way Home, for like the jokes. And I felt like there was a lot of that. Not a lot of that. There was one instance in Wakanda Forever where I felt like we should be kind of taking more time with a certain thing
yeah,
that happens. And I feel like we kind of just rush it aside really quickly just to kind of keep the momentum going with the rest of the movie. Um, I think the subplot with Ross after like talking to a bunch of friends about this. Yeah, you could just cut that right.
Well, I think you can have the like because I guess it's important to establish Riri as a character, right? And have her
Yeah,
in there. I know the character is like, you know, supposed to like in the comics is like the successor to Iron Man or
yeah,
whatever.
I know very little about her. Apparently, a friend of mine told me that like he felt that they did her justice versus in the comics. I think he was telling me that like in the comics she was a little bit um it was a little bit kind of like wavy and stuff with her character, and then it kind of picked up after some time. But as I think she did a great job. I really want to see more of her, I guess, because I kind of felt like it was the comic relief. It was kind of or the, like it was like the plot device basically. She was basically a plot device. It was like, okay, here we gotta get, because the base, we gotta get from here to here to here, and she's a part of this. But um
Yeah.
I felt like, and there is something that does happen involving her character that I felt like there should have been more focus on, or like I felt like there should have been more like they should have like kind of dealt with that, at least for her as a character and stuff. Just because it just kind of felt like, oh, this happened that involved her, but we're gonna keep on going because
Yeah. It feels like there were certain things that had to be clipped out in order to have the things that probably shouldn't have been in there, like the majority of the Ross subplot,
yeah,
like the shoehorned one liners, like the okay, you gotta have this external force so that it's not just two secret or one that was a secret nation and another nation that is still a secret going at war with each other. You've got to have the external factor.
yeah, and I think with yeah, I can't. Yeah, no, the raw stuff. I'm like, sorry, I'm like thinking about the raw stuff right now, and yeah, no, I think
That's the main point.
it's
It just
yeah,
it drags the movie to a halt,
it
and
really
then
does.
it makes the other scene. The other big thing, right, is that, and part of this, and Amari's going to roll his eyes, is that I saw, the Way of Water trailer right before the movie started. But the action here, while probably really good if you turn that HDR up and could actually see what's going on, um, I couldn't really see what was going on in a lot of the nighttime scenes and a lot of the action scenes.
I will
Um,
I will agree with you there. This is the second time now, and I feel like I want to say I think Coogler is going for like the most realistic you can possibly get with a nighttime scene where there's only one source of light, or in this case, two sources of light, water and fire, and it's kind of like you're kind of working with that, and I guess the moonlight too. So it's three. But
yeah, but you can
it is
still do that and
yeah,
make it, because here's the thing: realistic lighting can be very boring, I think, because the sources of light that you do have are not great. And if you're like, oh yeah, but it's more realistic this way, yeah, but you should be able to see the actors, you should be able to see what's going on, unless it's an artistic choice that you're not seeing what's going on. But I feel like I should be seeing the blue people attack these different people, you
yeah.
know?
No, I mean, it was no. There was a couple of moments. There's one in particular where there's one scene that happens pretty early on, um and it was kind of hard to it was hard to see, and I thought it was just me, but then when you texted me you're like, hey, how was this in your theater, and I was like, hey, it was kind of hard to see sometimes. I was certain things.
Yeah, it was sad because I was like, that was one of the big notes of improvement that I thought he could use for the sequel, because the first one had that issue too. And then
Yeah, and I think it's slightly better here, I feel, and I'm but it is it is something that I can't help but you and I can't help but notice it, at least
yeah, and
with
I have that issue with a lot of different things because, spoiler alert, we need to see things
yeah. Well, I
to
mean,
enjoy them.
yeah, and I think there's certain things in there too, because there is a very important conversation that happens and I feel like it's kind of, you get kind of distracted. At least with me, I get kind of distracted if I can't see the actors and actresses,
Yeah.
giving the performances. It's kind of like and if I'm struggling to see it, then it's kind of, it's the same thing with not really the same thing, but like, with sound, for instance. Like I can't help but think about Tenet, and it's like hard to understand certain
Yeah.
things. So like, when you're first seeing the movie,
What
um,
was very weird about Tenet is that even though like both of the times I watched it, I could not hear most of the dialogue. I think it's a fairly straightforward movie. Um, like in terms of what's actually going on, I'm like, okay, yeah, like there's some confusion of like, okay, what exactly is going on here? But for the most part, I'm
I
kind of like, I can hear it.
yeah, but I think it is important to like both hear and see. I think my
Yeah.
main point is the fact that like there's an actor.
Well, it's a visual and an oral media, oral with an A, Aural. It is both of those. Like it's a medium of image and sound.
Yeah, and
So if you have one of those lacking, it's kind of like, okay, why are you doing it like this?
yeah,
And it's a common complaint these days. Like House of the Dragon, pretty good um prequel to Game of Thrones, has some issues with nighttime scenes where everything's like, okay, why you light in it like this?
yeah.
Just let us see the actors' faces. Maybe it's not the most realistic thing, but like everyone took the wrong lessons from Inarritu and the Revenant. The Revenant looks good not just because all natural lighting, but because he still kept it interesting with all the natural lighting to where you could still see generally what was going on. And if you couldn't see what was going on, it was an intentional choice. Here it's like, oh yeah, like you just can't see what's going on because that's realistic and no natural lighting or no unnatural lighting. Um
I think that, I mean, it's definitely like, I think it, for me, it wasn't the like the biggest thing for me. I think for me one of the other things that I think bothered, not bothered, well, it was like some bothersome, was I felt like, and we're gonna get into like, I think Namor, right, or Namor.
However you pronounce it.
I just think that learning about him and his people, I kind of want to spend more time there.
Yeah.
I
I think if they could have trimmed the raw stuff to the minimum and expanded more on his culture with that extra time,
because I
could have
think,
been better.
no, yeah, because there was a lot of interesting and like just like history with that, and I was like, this is really cool. And I feel like we were there for a little bit, and then it was time for like, all right, now we're getting into the
The
end of the
second
second.
half of the movie, the
Yeah, and it's kind of like, oh, I'm like, oh, that's kind of sad.
yeah,
Like,
you get like 5 minutes of you get a lot of backstory, more that's more than 5 minutes, but you get like 5 minutes to actually see, you know, what's at stake here.
and I think with him as a character, okay, because I know he's gonna get compared to to Killmonger. I personally think Killmonger is the stronger villain or the stronger antagonist
Same.
of the two movies. It is just because it's a very, for Killmonger, and it's just coming from, just that story was so personal. I felt, and not to say that Namor's isn't personal. I just feel like it was just, there wasn't. I feel like there wasn't a breathing room, because it was kind of like it went from here to here. All right, here's his backstory. Cool. All right, and it's like,
And villain time.
yeah, villains. And I'm like, I kind of, do I, where Killmonger gets like this very emotional,
Well,
like,
his stuff is woven in a lot more efficiently, and he's given that time to breathe, even though the movie's 20 minutes shorter for the original.
yeah.
Um,
And I also think Michael B. Jordan is,
he gets that time where he can be in the spotlight, where Namor gets like
he gets
10 minutes in the spotlight, but he's also sharing it with the central character.
yeah.
Um,
I also think that like Michael B. Jordan is very, his portrayal was very much a presence in the first Black Panther.
Yeah,
Um, and I don't know, it's just something about, yeah, again, just something just about his story and the breathing room that he had.
yeah.
Not to say that the actor playing Namor didn't do a great job. I think he did a great job. Like I think he did a really great job of what
They just needed to maybe give him a bit more to work with.
yeah, because even like his yeah, because then when you get to like the climax of the movie, it's
Like with a bit more meat, he could have been like
yeah, no,
close to on par with Killmonger probably.
and I
But
think yeah, and I think and there is some like I mean there is some stuff that yeah I would have liked to be more fleshed out because it feels like it wasn't like it was kind of like
we have to make room for this.
yeah we like it's like we had to make room for this. We have to tell a story, so here we go in the most efficient way possible and stuff, and then we gotta
And we have to set up these Disney Plus series.
very much so. And I'm like, oh man, like I kind of want to see, and I mean that's mostly that. I mean that's
Yeah,
mostly
it
my
sounds like we hate the movie,
yeah. We
and
really
we
don't.
don't.
No, I
It just has a lot of frustrating aspects to it.
that withhold it from being something that's really really great. That and I think
It's
and
got a great opening. It's got a great closing. It's just some of the middle is not
which
what it should be.
which
Um,
I was actually gonna say like getting into some of the positives. I will say that yeah, I think this has probably the best. Yeah, no, it does. It has the best ending for an MCU movie. Um,
Definitely.
definitely like one of the best.
Well, Multiverse also has a pretty cool ending, but
Yeah, I mean,
it's not like it's like a oh that's a Sam Raimi
in the
ending.
ending. Yeah,
Um,
this I feel like with this one,
but this is like the ending scene, I should say,
not the
to
post
this
credit.
movie
Yeah.
is probably my new favorite MCU scene, topping the scene between Drax and Mantis in Volume 2.
Oh, that was a good scene. I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great
So
scene.
that has been my favorite MCU scene for like 5 years now. Finally been topped
Yeah,
by the closing scene here.
and the closing scene
Um,
though, it was really, and I was surprised because for a second you would think, all right, MCU movie, you're probably gonna end on this like very heroic, last shot or just very,
very heroic, a call forward to this character will be appearing again, that kind of thing.
and it
And it does something different.
no, yeah, it does something really, really nice too. And I was like, this is really nice. That's not to say that the post credit scene wasn't great. I thought that was a really nice addition. That was really, really sweet.
Yeah, I think that's a nice little,
Yeah,
just a little extra for the audience
yeah.
that,
Oh yeah, but I think the very end of it, I was like, oh shit, this is nice. Like, there's no music. It's just really nice, and I was like, that is nice. Yeah, and I said nice so many times, but in the opening, I thought was really good. I think the whole theme of the movie, just dealing with grief, I think is handled pretty well. I think it's really,
yeah.
I
I've
think
been surprised, people talked about how WandaVision is like this amazing thing about grief and whatever.
it has its
It's
moments.
good. It's good. It's just, it's fine. Um, but one conversation does not a TV series make, where other things like personally, I like Thor Love and Thunder more than I liked WandaVision. Um,
Actually, I could, yeah, I could.
and I think Thor Love and Thunder was a lot more about grief than WandaVision, because WandaVision has that one conversation, and yeah, that's kind of the thesis statement for the show, maybe, but it's like kind of shoehorned in there and like kind of one of the last few episodes. And it's a conversation in a 9 episode miniseries. So anyhow, but yeah, I do like how it has kind of been this recurring theme within Phase 4 is the grief that follows something like the end of Phase 3, like Endgame and yeah, Endgame,
Yeah.
because even
Infinity War.
Far From Home had that kind of like undercurrent of grief a little bit, even though that was still technically the end of Phase 3.
Yeah,
Um,
kind of weird at the end of that. That's a weird ending to Phase 3. He ended on no, like Far From Home. It's kind of weird.
I in my brain it ends on Endgame, and
Right, it
Far
makes
From
sense,
Home
right?
is
It makes sense.
but
I just
in my brain.
yeah, I think with the themes of grief and anger and dealing with your emotions is very
And it's dealing with what happened after Endgame and what happened after Infinity War, and that kind of like, oh yeah, we have to rebuild. My big concern was more timeline, I guess, of there was some big timeline question marks, I should say.
all I know about this is that it takes place after what was the most recent Disney Plus show that just aired that was Marvel related. I'm blanking. I watch all these too. Hold on.
Yeah, you watch all these.
There was Miss
Okay.
Marvel. Was Miss Marvel the last one? I think Miss Marvel was the last. No.
She-Hulk.
She-Hulk was like, yeah, so it takes place after. Wow, I forgot She-Hulk.
I,
Oh my God. I
you
wa-
didn't you enjoy Miss Marvel?
I did enjoy Miss Marvel. I thought that was really
Oh,
good.
okay. Well,
Yeah,
that's good.
I
You
thought it was
know, good
good.
for you.
Yeah,
I'm
no, I
still
thought
not
that was
watching any of
good.
them, but good.
Yeah, no,
That's,
that was good. Like honestly, like I thought that was pretty good. She-Hulk,
I
yeah,
have to stand my ground somewhere. I'll only watch Loki season 2.
again, Loki's been the top for me. That's like been the
And
best thing of the all the shows. But yeah, I think from what I've understood, it takes place after She-Hulk, like directly after, in terms of timeline stuff. But
it's not just that, but just with certain elements that are introduced in the film, it doesn't make sense.
yeah, I mean, no, okay, because it really sounds like we're bashing this movie. This movie's really good. Like, I'm like, I'm not gonna front and say it's like the worst thing. I think,
Yeah, like I need to talk to you about this thing, but it's a spoiler. So like that's why I'm kind of like,
yeah,
okay, I
no,
need to.
we could do off air because it
Yeah,
really sounds like we're bashing the movie, and I think,
it is a really good movie. It could lose 20 minutes
yeah,
or use the 20 minutes it uses on these different subplots elsewhere. It could also light action scenes better, but I do think it's relatively close to the original in terms of like ambition, overall quality, but I don't praise the first one to the level of most people.
no,
So
I
I think
definitely.
they're both like 4 out of 5 movies.
Yeah, yeah. I don't praise too much the first one. I do. I mean, you even said this before, and like it is of course worth mentioning that the loss of Chadwick Boseman,
Yeah,
is very much felt throughout the whole movie, and it's you
it's
it,
a movie without its star,
yeah, and I think everybody else steps up to the plate, of course, and does a great job. Particularly
but it's hard to replace a Spectre.
Oh yeah, and I think specifically like I think a lot of people brought, like I was saying, a lot of people brought their A game, of course. Like Letitia
Yeah.
Wright, I think did a great job stepping up, and I didn't think, because I remember seeing her as a character, Shuri as a character. I was like, okay, she's like the nice side character.
She could do good with all these character beats,
Yeah,
and then she kind of has to take on a lot more weight with this one. As does Okoye and Denai Guerrera. Angela Bassett, of course, absolutely crushes it, as she has for several years now.
and
Um,
I think I think everybody does it.
Winston Duke's great.
Oh, of course,
He's less in this one
I'm kind of
than
sad about that,
even
honestly.
possibly the first.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm very sad about that. Like, but I as much, and I know the production. Oh, we all, if I think a lot
no
of,
Kaluuya, but
yeah, he was busy with something else.
yeah.
But I think we all know the production history of this. That I don't think we need to really like restate.
Nope, he was busy with Nope, which yeah, a
Yeah.
good move there. Um,
But like the production history for this was so messy, and the amount of rumors and speculations that came out with this. I am surprised, not even surprised. I mean, it is Ryan Coogler, and I do like Ryan Coogler. I think what he was able to do with everything, whether it was true or not, and and especially because finding out that he wrote the script and was about to send it to Chadwick Boseman, and it was like a day, like literally he was finishing it, and then
A
like
few days right
yeah,
before the whole thing happened. Yeah,
yeah, he
it's
passed away, and I was like, wow, because he had the ultimate like task to rewrite a script basically from scratch and kind of
yeah,
like retexturize the story. Um, and yeah, no, I do like the fact that I think Ryan Coogler, the best thing he possibly does for in all of his movies when he deals with emotion is the fact that he inputs what he's going through in every one of his scripts. So like
yeah.
Free Will Station, it was very much an angry kind of somber story.
Reflection of a real story, true
Yeah,
story.
and then Creed was a love letter to the Rocky movies, but also to his father. So he wrote it, as like a means to like, kind of, relive
Yeah,
like experiences with his father. And Black Panther was, gain in touch with his culture. And now Wakanda Forever is very much like you can tell because it's like there's certain even how they explain.
dealing with the loss of a friend.
Yeah, and they do explain how, not to an extent, how T'Challa does, he how he's not here, and it's very much like, yeah, he's taken from his own experiences, and he's having these characters deal with, what he's going through. And I think that's, I mean, again, it's really smart.
I will say I definitely related to the Shuri situation. Like one of the
Oh,
things that made it work for me is that sense of so busy doing something that you miss time with someone, and then because of the guilt, continuing to do what you were doing, that kind of thing, and bury yourself in that. That's been this whole year for me, to where it was kind of painful watching like Pearl, where I was like, oh yeah, I've lived that life before, and now watching Wakanda Forever, seeing Shuri's arc and being like, oh yeah, that this has
yeah.
been my 2022.
No,
um
it's very much. I feel like and I feel like if people who haven't gone through that, they would most certainly will at one point in their life because yeah, no, what,
and it's a
yeah, what
part
she
of
goes,
life.
yeah, no, it sucks because it's like, yeah, you do feel all those emotions, and it's like Jesus, like, and especially there was a couple scenes in there where yeah, just like you, I was like, fuck, that hits a little too close to home, like and there's certain
Yeah,
things that she like this is like a
if
minor.
it had focused more on that, it probably would be top tier MCU.
Yeah, I mean, well, I was gonna say right before you say that, I was gonna say that there is a scene. No, there is like a small thing where she does talk. She is kind of a little wavy about um tradition and religion when it comes to the people of Wakanda. And I think that was very kind of relatable because I know people, in my life and stuff like that who are kind of like that, who do kind of feel what Shuri does feel. And especially when when someone significant has died in your life, you start to question a bunch of things.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I do agree with you though. Like getting back into what you were saying, yeah, no, if they did focus a little bit more on that because
they could have still done the Namor and the
yeah, I think there's just so
Talocan, whatever it is,
I hope
stuff, but
I hope we are.
focusing it more on her journey rather than, okay, here's the tangent here, this, here's the tangent here. Like, maybe, making notes for things that are vague about details, but maybe making Namor's motivation a bit more linked to the stuff Shuri's going through. You know,
Yeah, it was. I mean, as much as I think he did a great job. I'm forgetting the actor's name. I feel so bad about that.
Tinacuerta, I think.
Believe some. Thank you. You are my man. For remembering this stuff. Oh, I just think that yeah, his motivations. While
And
I
they're
was,
they're they're okay,
they're
but they could have been woven in more. Like, what was the thing I was watching? Raiders. Yesterday, rewatching so many Spielberg films before Fablemans, and Belloc is a reflection of Indiana Jones, and they address it in the script, and an on the nose way, but in an on the nose way that works. Of like, this is what would happen to Indiana Jones if he went too far, that kind of thing.
and I
And you could have they have a little bit of that, but it's kind of muddy with Namor Shuri.
Well,
Um,
yeah, it's definitely like, and I think those scenes are I it's just I think it's so I think a lot like the first movie. Um, there is very much like so much themes that they really want to tackle in one movie. And I always feel like it's okay to just you have to talk, I mean you can talk about these things, but you don't talk about everything. Like you can't like overstuff the movie, I feel. The first one, understandable because it's like you don't even know if you're gonna get another chance to even do a movie like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially with a basically all black cast, like to be like to even have that in general for the first film is like, yeah, you want to tell as much as you can because you don't know if you're gonna get another second chance of this, right? This could flop and they can do something completely different. Whereas now now it was a success. You can do the second one, and I felt like the second one tried to do the same thing again.
yeah,
Where I was like, I think since this is the second movie and you are able to do it, you don't have to tell so many different plot points. It's okay to ease it back a little bit and to tell this very important story. I feel like, which is the through line, which is just a story about grief. And I think when it does that, it's really really strong and is like
yeah,
some of the best stuff Marvel has done.
I
Um,
agree.
and I think when you're tackling plot points and you're trying to set up this, and you're introducing this, you're doing that, it starts to muddle.
This show, not show, this movie not only sets up one Disney Plus original series, it also sets up another Disney Plus original series. So it sets up two different Disney Plus original series, and unnecessary.
I mean, the one I can kind of see. I don't know about the. I'm thinking now. I know about the other one. I think this one did a better job of disguising it for me because,
It's disguising it, sure, because it's not saying, "Hey, we'll see you in this show in a
yeah,
few months." It's not doing that, but
yeah, and I think yeah, it's just yeah. I mean, again, it really sounds like we really don't like this movie. It
it
really
just has problems, which is fine. A lot of movies have problems.
yeah.
I
That
just usually don't talk about problems. So when I'm more vocally negative on something, it kind of stands out. I still really enjoyed it. I do think it has probably the best MCU scene now. Um,
I was gonna say also like forgot to mention.
Score is good.
Thank you. The score is good. I like more steam in this, and
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. There, my
When
favorite.
it when I can see things, it looks gorgeous.
I was
The
gonna say
VFX aren't too
yeah.
bad this time around.
Uh, I
Um,
was gonna say my favorite track. Just saying, favorite track has to be "Vengeance Has Consumed Us." Just pointing it out there for the record. Good track. Anyway, I think it does.
um,
Yeah, no, it's. I definitely am excited to see what happens next. I do think there were. Yeah, I mean, it has a few like things here and there and stuff like that, but it didn't like
but at the end of the day, it's another Black Panther movie.
yeah.
So
And yeah, it definitely doesn't taint my experience of it, right? Like I'm not going out there and being like this was horrible because of this and that. I'm like, nah, this is still like leaps and bounds better.
it makes smart choices. It's you know
Yeah, like it's leaps and bounds better than a lot of other stuff. In terms of what it's doing, what it's saying, like which is always a plus, honestly. Um, I am excited to see what happens next. I am intrigued to see what happens next because I feel like someone on Twitter, I remember there's someone I follow, and he was like, he said before the movie even came out, like months ago, he was like, you know, I'm ready to give up on the MCU, but then Ryan Coogler comes out with a trailer for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and I'm just instantly going back in, and I was like, yeah, no, I feel like when it comes to the MCU, because this is the third film to come out this year, MCU
mhm.
related, right? Right? No,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wait.
Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah. Three.
Yep, third movie. Yeah. So
It's just the Disney Plus series make it
yeah,
confusing now.
yeah, and I think the hugest thing for me, like the overarching thing for me about this movie is that Marvel has got to put the brakes on certain things because these used to be event movies. And like it is very annoying that I am like by the time it's November, even though I was very excited out of all the movies that come out to see Wakanda Forever, it's like, oh my God, this is like the something like thing that's coming out this year. And I feel like with this should have been an event. Like it's becoming like a chore now to watch these movies. I mean, it's been becoming a chore, but like
Yeah.
especially with a movie like
You're
Black Panther.
starting to feel like I'm feeling
Yeah,
all
well,
the
because
time.
it's like it's Black Panther. Like this is like it's again, it's another all-star like black and brown cast, and it's so and you're like and these are and I'm like, dude, it's directed by a black director, like and I'm like, come on, like this should like we gotta start making these things like events because this is like very important stuff, and it's like no, we gotta have like something other fucking movies and TV shows coming out in one fucking year, and I'm like, dude, you got like
Yeah.
Marvel has to chill. Like, like even like I can even say like 2 years ago, it was even more exciting because it was like, oh my god,
You
one
have all these
ah,
Marvel fans who love the Batman so much who are now freaking out that the sequel might not come out for 3 or 4 years.
I'm fine with
And I'm
that.
like, that was normal for the longest time.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
Spider-Man to Spider-Man 2, 2 years. Spider-Man 2 to Spider-Man 3, 3 years. At
yeah.
the
There,
that was normal. That was what it was. It was not every year you get a new Marvel movie. You had to be patient.
yeah.
Um,
And I think that that's also what gets like me excited about movies. It's like with like
the anticipation makes it
yeah,
more
the
enjoyable.
anticipation. It's
Kind of like me with the blockbuster release that I'm looking forward to, and you're shaky on with.
listen, The Way of Water, and we're gonna review Avatar. I swear to God, we're gonna do that. I think the first one before we see the second one, because I got some shit to say about that movie. Because
Have you rewatched it yet?
no, I'm planning to rewatch it really, 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 probably like the end of this week, if not anything, so we can freaking do
Okay.
it.
Well,
But like, my
if you
God,
do it by Friday, we can
oh, I'm down.
record one over the weekend.
I am down
Um,
because I have so much shit to say about that movie. Because I,
just like, could
uh,
you imagine to close off this review? You watch it and you're like, okay, now I gotta like change everything I'm gonna say.
no, never. Okay, because listen, I'm watching the Way of Water trailer. I was like, it's okay. Because in my mind, I'm like, a few years ago we had talking apes with beautiful stories.
I get you.